I haven't seen anything darker than what the Israeli occupation forces have done to us. I went through a process of healing, trauma therapy, and processing what happened with me. So that process of healing gave me the reassurance, doesn't matter what they're gonna do to me. You can put me in solitary confinement. You can try to punish me. You can try to torture me. You can try to kill me. And I am sure I'm gonna overcome it because that is the Palestinian spirit.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud.
Visit sumudpod.com to subscribe and connect with us on social media. You can also support our work by contributing monthly on the Support Us page. Even $10 a month helps us continue amplifying Palestinian voices and those in solidarity. Thank you.
On this episode of the Sumud Podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify Mohsen Mahdawi. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ed. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Do you mind if I just read a quick bio about you?
Please.
Okay, you tell me if I get anything wrong here, okay?
I'll try to keep myself humble while I'm listening.
By the way, I appreciate your energy. You came in with such positive energy. I can feel it heart to heart, man. I really do appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
So you were born in a refugee camp in the West Bank and came to the U.S. in 2014 carrying memory and hope. You studied philosophy at Columbia University and refused to be silent about Palestine when silence was safer. In 2025, you were arrested at your own citizenship interview, a moment that echoed far beyond that very room. But you stood your ground, and that court ruled in your favor. Your uncle taught you that education is your only weapon. Guided by his memory, you have carried that lesson into the fight for justice and a brighter future for Palestine. And I thought it was very important to invoke your uncle because that was your essay to Columbia University in order to get in. So again, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Palestinian-American attorney Ibrahim Awad. You may know him as the Karate Attorney. He's a huge member of our community and a big supporter of the podcast. Follow him at Karate Attorney on all social media outlets or visit his website, karateattorney.com. So listen, everybody knows what happened to you and everybody has been paying attention in the media, what the government is trying to do to you. And you've become this symbol of resistance to an extent. I'm curious as to who you are as a human being, as a person. What does the world not know about you?
Before I share that, I want to just share gratitude for your courage as well for this podcast made by a Palestinian for Palestinians at a time where many Palestinian voices don't have a place to share their voice. So this is very important to me and I'm very grateful. And I hope more people can understand the importance of this to amplify the voices that you bring through this podcast and to empower work like this for you and for other Palestinians as well.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Thank you. And beyond, you asked me beyond of the activism and the person who is being targeted by the government, what can people know about me? Is that the correct framing?
I know there's so much depth there, right? And again, you become this just image, this person on the screen talking about what happened to them. But there's something much more about you.
I mean, this is a Palestinian story and the Palestinian experience.
Yeah.
You cannot really keep it in boxes because each experience is very rich, very diverse, and has its own challenges and successes. And many people, when they look at my story and my activism and how I've been captured or seen by the media, they miss the nuances. And the nuances is I am carrying a passion of a child inside of me. Everything that is motivating me and moving me forward, it is that deep passion and commitment to not see children in Palestine, hundreds of thousands and now millions after the genocide of children who are deeply suffering. My hope and my work is to alleviate this suffering and to provide them with a life of dignity, a life of freedom, a life of opportunity, a life of equality. And this is a fight for not only justice. Many people think it's only for justice, and many people think it's only for liberation. This is a fight for humanity.
Yeah.
And what we're doing now, my story is a human story that refuses and rejects to just accept the status quo and to normalize the situation that this is what it is and it's okay for children to live in suffering like this.
You're carrying the trauma of your great-grandfather and the Nakba and his displacement. And given what's happening to you today, do you see the parallels of that experience? Of course, you can't equate it. They're two different scenarios. But do you feel that parallel being there?
I mean, the experience never stopped. I'm a third generation. We have fourth generation Palestinian children. Your children are fourth generation. And we inherit that trauma, that pain, that suffering, and that loss. Because, in fact, it never stopped, the suffering of the Nakba. Many people think that it is what happened in 1948. But for us, it's ongoing. And, you know, the implications of what comes after. You take somebody or you force somebody out of their land, a land that has been there and they had connection with for many generations. The trees that my sixth great-grandfather have, planted and took care of and so on. The connection with the soil, with the land, the connection with the Mediterranean Sea, with the sea. The freedom of just being in nature, all of this we were stripped of. And that's an experience I continued to experience in the refugee camp as a third generation. Many people don't know and cannot imagine what a refugee camp looked like. I mean, refugee camps, if you say to, the general public, they just imagine tents.
Yeah.
And the experience of being in a refugee camp, I can go in details to describe what is a refugee camp, worth a while to take and to go into it. But the experience where you don't have actually space to plant a tree, you lose that connection with nature. You lose the connection even with having enough exposure with the sun, because houses are, crammed and built over each other, where the sun exposure, people don't have it. In many homes, the sun does not get into the homes. You lose the experience of privacy, of having space, and you lose the experience of connecting with many generations, because, every day the refugee camp is changing because of dire needs for people. For example, the refugee camp started in 1948, was rented by the United Nations for 99 years on less than about 63 acres or a quarter square kilometer. And that refugee camp developed from tents into metal sheet houses, into mud houses, into concrete houses, which is a concrete jungle right now. And the situation in it, you can't really close your eye. You can shut your eye, because the memory is not only the stories that we heard about what has been taken away from us. It's the day-to-day experience of pain and suffering. If somebody gets injured inside of the house or get sick and you need to get them outside of the refugee camp, many times you can't carry them out on a stretcher. You have to get a sledgehammer and to knock down part of the wall to open basically a squared window or something, and to be able to pass them through the houses to get on the street. There is no privacy in refugee camps. You hear people arguing around you all the time. There is no place for children to play. We played in streets, 5 streets that divided the refugee camp, each street between 15 to 20 feet wide, and thousands of alleys. There is not enough water in refugee camps. The water is delivered once or twice a week, and you store them in tanks on top of the houses, and you don't shower except when the water is coming, because you have to save the water for basic needs like cooking and basic cleaning and so on. When there is rain in the refugee camp, many houses flood. And that is not an easy thing. We as children take buckets in the cold, our feet like saturated in water, and we are shaking. And what we're doing, we are shoveling and getting the water outside of the house. And I'm not talking about the Israeli occupation, the apartheid, the terrorism that they have injected on us. I'm talking just like this mere way of living in a refugee camp. My grandfather and some of my uncles, my uncle Thayer was killed by the Israelis, and other uncles who passed away. They passed away and still yearning and holding on that memory of our homeland, and that the right of return is going to happen within their lifetime. 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years, now 78 years, and we are still waiting for that right. So the impact is connected. The other thing is the uncertainty. They didn't know what is going to happen. When are we going to return? Every day you don't know what's going to unfold. And this sense of uncertainty continues to be with me, even though I am in this country. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because I am stateless, I am a refugee, and this government is declaring me to be a threat to its national security. So this story of suffering and the experience of being a refugee never left, because it is stored actually in our bodies, the trauma of it.
So, if I close my eyes right now, I can go back to my childhood when I visited Palestine. I can remember my grandparents. I can remember the smell, the feel. If you were to do that right now, and I know you're big into meditation and reflection, if you were to close your eyes right now, what's that first memory, that first smell or feel that would come to you?
I'm trying to feel it rather than to make my mind go into it. It is the feeling of the sun glazing my skin in the spring, the mixture of warmth on the skin and the breeze of the air, and the smell of al-bayarat, the forests that surrounded the refugee camp. In fact, when I would escape the refugee camp, and I would smell the aroma of the flowers from the almond trees in the spring, that looks also so beautiful when you look at it. It looks like pride. Yeah. Beautiful white flowers. And the poppy flowers, the green grass that's coming out in the spring, and the poppy flowers that are just randomly all over the place. And the taste of the khubbeze that I haven't had in many years. It's, I don't know what is it called in English, but
I don't know either. Yeah.
It's not spinach. It's something else that grows in the wilderness. Naturally you collect it, you dice onion with it, and you cook it with heavy olive oil, and then you start dipping with bread. Just that flavor, and my grandmother's joy. Blessings to her spirit. With very little things there. And when I would bring the khubbeze, or when I bring al-fukwa, which is mushrooms, and I see the joy on her face, simple joy but so beautiful, a lot of sensations.
Yeah, I think you're making me want to go back right now.
Well, this is a dream that we all are holding on. To go back to this, the beautiful memory of community and land. Yeah. Something very interesting. The first time I went to California after my detention, I went to give a talk in Santa Barbara. And I walk outside of the house of my friend who's hosting me, and I smell an aroma. and something inside of me feels so alive. Just wake up. I woke up and I get nostalgia. I know this smell. It was at night. Can you guess what was it?
No.
Something that like sends so much aroma at night. Small bush, white flowers, jasmine. So the jasmine, the smell of the jasmine flower was so potent, but I couldn't help. I felt like it shifted me, took me somewhere else. And that's when I realized that I had strong nostalgia for Palestine when I was in California. And since that time, I actually started buying essential oil, jasmine essential oil, which is now when you enter my place, my apartment or my place in Vermont, you will be able to smell the jasmine flower at all time.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I want to go back to your younger self. There is a series of traumas that you experienced. I'm going to start with your mother, if you don't mind. Your mother, for whatever reason, ended up leaving the family. I believe your parents got divorced, your mother left, and you and your siblings were left with your grandparents. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what happened is initially my mother took us with her, and she realized that she could not actually take care of us. So she sends me and my brother back to my father, and then we live with my grandmother. Actually, I was separated from my brother. He lived on the first floor with my father and his new wife, and I lived with my grandmother on the second floor.
What do you remember about the pain of your mother leaving?
It is it's very significant for a child to not live with his mother. My mother, for me, was actually everything. She was the source of love. She was the source of warmth. She was the source of spirituality. And I was so attached to her, so attached to her. So when I was sent back to the refugee camp, the memory, and I had my brother in my arms who was paralyzed, and that's another traumatic event, a result of the Israeli occupation. So my brother had a fever when he was a few months old, and his body heat was so high. My father and mother and grandmother tried to take him to the hospital. The refugee camp was under siege during that time. This is 1992. And the army did not allow my father to leave and threatened to shoot him if he tried to leave. So you get parents who have their child who's a few months old feeling helpless. They go back to the house. It's either they save their lives and perhaps his life, or the child would grow up without a father because they would shoot and kill my father. So my grandmother convinced them to go to the house, and they tried to like lower his body heat, and he ended up getting paralyzed from that situation. Paralyzed to the point also he could not speak. He was able to communicate through his eyes. And that was a heavy toll on my mother too, to have 3 children, one of whom, and he's a sweet, blessings to his spirit, he passed away when I was a child.
He passed away because of the stress of your mother leaving.
We can't really track it exactly, but the way how I understood it is he was heartbroken and he refused to eat. And we would force him, try to force him to eat by injecting food in his mouth. He was 6 years old at that time. And it didn't take long for him to get into very, very painful situation where we had to hospitalize him. And in the hospital also didn't last long, about a few days, and he passed away. So it is not an easy story, painful story. So back to my mother. I was deeply connected with my mother. So the moment I was separated from her, I felt that my soul was stuck in my throat, could not speak, could not breathe well. And it felt to me like it would be easier, if this is not a reality. It felt like a dream of some sort or a nightmare. And it was haunting. It was very painful for a child to experience this. And, when I think about it, I think also about all of the children who lose their mothers. We had, I think, more than 100,000 orphans in Gaza right now. No mothers and no fathers. And this is an experience of a child. It's a human experience, regardless of the conditions. It was a very painful, difficult one. And what made it even harder for me is I tried to be tough, at the beginning, because my brother is there and they had to be there for him. I'm the older brother. But losing my brother added another dimension of deep, deep hurt and pain. And something crazy that I remember when we buried my brother, I was 8 years old. He was 6, 2 years younger than me. We took him to the cemetery and I was crying and at the same time doing my duty as a good Muslim kid, trying to shuffle also dirt over my brother's body, in the grave. And I remember heavy rain. So years passed by, and every time it rained, I would not just, I didn't like it. I didn't know why. I did not realize that it is connected to my brother's memory and his death until I was walking my land in Vermont. I have a small piece of land. And it started raining, and in my head, I just wanted to rush and hide. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been waiting for this rain because I wanted the pond to fill up. And it should be joyful, and why am I doing that? So I went and sat in meditation and tracked it, that it was related to my brother's loss.
I'm sorry to bring up all of the pain that you've gone through, but I just want the audience to understand what you're going through right now with ICE and the current administration and the legal proceedings. There is so much more that happened to you way before that you've experienced. I mean, how many cousins did you lose?
In the second Intifada, 2.
Okay.
And since October 7th, 4.
And your uncle was also murdered.
Correct.
You call them the Israeli apartheid force, I believe, IAF.
Terrorist force.
Terrorist force.
Yes.
Which is right on. I agree with you. They murdered your uncle.
Correct.
And I think it was on your birthday.
That's right. September 12, 2001.
And one of your last memories was from his body, you grabbed his shoe.
That's correct.
Can you just, again, that trauma as well?
Without pain, we would not be able to appreciate healing. And as painful as it is, I have to carry my inner child when I talk about that, because I have to see the pain that the child went through. But reflecting on that, I'm grateful, actually, for those deep, painful experiences that helped me to heal and to become more human, because this is how I can empathize with many people. And to close the conversation related to my mother is leaving. I also empathize with my mother. She was not used to live in refugee camps, and the life in the refugee camp was very painful, very traumatizing. The Israeli occupation, what happened to her son, the continuous raids. My uncles were targeted by the Israeli terrorist forces and occupation. And I can understand that she could not handle living there. And for my father, could not leave the refugee camp, first because he does not have the resources and the means for it, and second, because he was one of the oldest who is looking after his family. So I empathize with both of them, even though it's a painful experience for me, and I empathize with my inner child who went through the pain. With my uncles, after September 11, 2001, and as always, the Israeli government took that coverage on September 11, which is a horrible thing that happened to the American people. All of the media was focused on that, and the Israeli army went into the West Bank. The day before, which is September 11, I saw my uncle and I said, tomorrow is my birthday. And he said, yes, we're going to celebrate together. And what happened in the morning, I woke up with hearing helicopters in the air and shooting as well. Look around me. My grandmother is not there, who usually sleeps in the same room across from me. And I'm hearing noise outside, like people in the street. So I go outside the house and I see many women sitting there and crying, and my grandmother and my uncle's wife is also crying, and she's carrying her baby who's 3 months old, his first son, Iyad, who's now actually becoming a doctor.
Oh, inshallah.
I think he's doing his last year of his medical school in Palestine, and that is the hope that we carry. That's the resilience that we carry. Mm-hmm. His father was murdered, and his father would call him the doctor when he would hold him, and his son wanted to fulfill his father's wish, even though he doesn't have any memory of him. It's just the stories.
Yeah.
So we get the news that your uncle has been shot, and the Israelis are not allowing the ambulance to pick him up. It was just a few kilometers away from the refugee camp. Then we see an ambulance coming through the main gate of the refugee camp. I go to the main street and I rush into the ambulance, and the moment they open the doors of the ambulance, I see my uncle laying there on a stretcher. I was a child, 11 years old. And they get the stretcher out. And this is my closest uncle, a source of support, a source of wisdom, a source of love. I didn't know what to do, so I take his shoes out of his feet and I hold on them. And I was full of anger and rage. And I hear the cries of my grandmother. My uncles are crying all silently. You tough men don't cry. And his wife passes out. And it was just a very painful memory, and he was saturated in blood. His beard was filled with blood. His body, he was shot twice, like assassinated with a handgun twice in the head. And the other shot, he first was shot in his shoulder with a large machine gun. So you can see the blood on his body and on his beard. This is my uncle, who I was supposed to celebrate with him my birthday.
So you mentioned he was your source of strength.
He was.
He was your encouragement. He motivated you. He made it very clear that education was the way to go, not violence, right?
Keep in mind that my mother was not around.
Yeah.
And he empathized with me during that time, and my brother was gone.
Yeah.
He was, blessings to his soul, very courageous man, very well educated. He studied psychology. And he was a therapist too. And he was very warm. So he was a very unique person. And I mean, his murder or that event has ignited a fire in me, unlike any other fire, truly.
Did you spiral into depression and sadness shortly thereafter, or did you rebel? Off air we talked about I rebelled you know, after my father passed, for example. Did you rebel? Did you have this dystopian point of view?
I rebelled after my mother left.
Okay.
Right after I was sent to the refugee camp, and especially after my brother passed away, I became very tough. You don't want to see me as a child. You don't want to confront me as a child. You don't want to get in a fight with me as a child because I was angry. But losing my uncle is a different dimension. And in this, like, not natural cause, you know, he was murdered. I was angry. And all what I thought of is, how can I bring justice to his spirit?
Let me ask you, do you wish as a child that you did not witness his body, the blood? Would you have preferred not to see that?
I don't want for any child to witness that. I mean, to witness the loss and the killing. The question has many different dimensions. I don't wish for any child to go through that experience of loss. I'm glad that I get the chance to have the first-hand experience of seeing my uncle. I wouldn't want to be distanced from that. As painful as it is, because that memory is what makes me very committed to justice nowadays.
So this is, a lot of the work that you're doing now is in the spirit of your uncle.
The spirit of my uncle and the spirit of the child who experienced the killing of his uncle, who experienced so much pain.
You know, I remember you were in the prison. I mean, it was a prison, correct? That was rented out, essentially.
Correct. Yeah, in Vermont.
And you were being interviewed. I don't know, it was a congressperson?
Correct.
Okay.
It's Senator Peter Welch.
Yeah. And you were smiling. And you stood up proud, and you were smiling, and you were so confident and so positive. And when I saw that, I guess because I project a little bit, right? We're human. I'm like, he's been through a lot of pain. This is nothing compared to what this man has been through. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's very correct. I've seen the darkest of what the human cruelty could be. What the Israeli occupation, genocidal, apartheid terrorist forces have done to us. I haven't seen anything darker than that. And I'm not sure if there is anything darker than what they have done to us. So that darkness allowed me to look at this darkness and say, well, it is darkness, and I've been in much worse. And not only that, overcoming that darkness, because I went through a process of healing in the United States, like trauma therapy. And years of reflection and processing what happened with me. So that process of healing gave me the reassurance, doesn't matter what they're gonna do to me. You can put me in solitary confinement. You can try to punish me. You can try to torture me. You can try to kill me. And I am sure I'm gonna overcome it, because that is the Palestinian spirit. The resilience that I carry with me, between the Palestinian resilience and the Buddhist practice that keeps me clear and calm and, collected, I think I get the best of both worlds. Worlds.
No. Your story really is an inspiration. I still, and we'll move on to the next topic, but I just can't forget you're smiling. And a lot of people are like, oh, how is he handling this? How is he smiling? And I kept on going back to, he's already had this experience. This is, I don't want to, mitigate the whole thing too much here, but it was like, this is a joke to him.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do to this guy that hasn't already been done, right?
The other thing is, keep in mind that that is for sure the core of it. The other thing, I played my cards very well. I was the last student to be begged, detained, and they failed to send me to Louisiana. They wanted to put me on an airplane. They failed to do that. I stayed in Vermont. And I have an unbelievable support in Vermont. This is one. And second, there is something special when you know that you are serving a cause.
Yeah.
So even the suffering, what might look like suffering, when you know that you're serving a cause, it is actually joy. So my message when the senator came to visit me, I'm like, don't worry about me. I want you to worry about the larger issue. And what's at stake is the Palestinians who are being killed on daily basis and the democracy in this country that's being violated and destroyed.
This is me reading it. I felt like he was confused. Like,
He
what
was
is this
shocked.
guy? Yeah, what is this guy made of?
He was shocked
Yeah.
to say, like, you are like smiling, you're sitting here. And I said, like, you can record this and share because people are worried about me. I want them to know that they should not be worried.
Yeah.
And not only him, like even other prisoners who were there, they're like, dude, why are you always like, and there was this one day, actually, funny. I like to listen to music. So I'm like in dire need to listen to music, and I befriended this prisoner who's been there for 30 years. He had all of the gigs that you might need. So I told him, I need music, man. And he said, I have this old like radio, you know, it comes clear. So you have to see everything inside it with headphones, and it's clear as well. And he gives me the radio, and I put it on some music station. And my God, I'm listening to music. So I forget myself. And by the way, you doesn't have a clip or something. So I tie one of the shirts. I make it like a bucket on my side, so it's tied on my waist. I'm having it there, and I'm like going to the bathroom, and I am dancing, right? And prisoners never see this. So another one see me dancing, and he's like started dancing, and the other one is like started. They're not hearing the music, and we get 3-4 people who are moving, and the guard comes and he said, "You're not supposed to dance here." You know, but prisoners would come and say, like, how could you be this positive? And I would hold like circles and guide them a little bit through meditation and tell them you can always see positive things even during dark times.
Yeah, that's powerful. You attended Birzeit University where you found love.
I fell in love.
I'll just stop there and hand it to you. That love brought you to America.
That love lined me up. Yeah, a story. I mean, you need action, you need loss, you need love,
yeah,
you need romance.
Mean, it feels like you appreciate romance. You appreciate
I appreciate romance. Well,
Yeah.
thanks to my mother who made me so passionate about about romance. Yeah, this is like healing work that I had to do later. I was a passionate, very passionate lover. And it happened that at Birzeit, I fell in love with an American woman. I can say a joke, but my mother would get offended, so I'm not going to say it. Yeah, I fell in love with an American woman, very special woman, well educated. She is very humble, very thoughtful. And I ended up getting married to her. And we lived in Birzeit for about 1.5 years.
Did you get married to her there?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you can just date there if you're in a position, you know, if you're seen by the public and if you are respectful to the culture. If you're going to live with a woman there, at least during that time, I had to do it the proper way.
Right.
And the proper way was to get married.
Right.
So we get married. And I never imagined that I would leave Palestine, in fact. I've always felt and believed that my mission is for Palestine in Palestine. And I thought she's going to be living with me. That's it. We get married. And she tells me at some point I have to go to continue my education. And I've been admitted to a medical school. And my response is like, you know, if you are in love with me, you stay with me. I'm in love with you, but I'm not leaving Palestine because I'm in love with Palestine. She understood from the beginning that Palestine is my number one commitment. And this is part of why I'm single now, because there is nothing more important to me than the cause.
So we had to find you a girl whose name is Palestine. That's
I mean, she lives in my heart. Yeah, she lives in my heart. And why is that? Because my commitment to end this injustice and uplift this oppression and see people living just like humans. So anyways, I say, well, we get Al-Quds Abu Dis, great medical school. And she says, I know it's a great medical school, but I'd like to practice in the West. And I didn't know anything about Ivy Leagues. She was admitted to an Ivy League. She graduated from an Ivy League. All of this is like a foreign world for me, alien world. So I said to her, you have to fulfill your wish. It's either us being together or you going and doing your education, because I'm not leaving. And that's what happened. She had to leave. I stayed in Palestine, and I said, I'm gonna get over it. You know, tough boy. I can get over it.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot before the loss of my mother. You know, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
But the reality is technology kept us, like, even brought us closer. I'd go to bed, she would go to school, and we would be communicating. She would go to bed, I would be going to school on Skype at that time.
Yeah.
Skype and Facebook. And we both were yearning to be with each other, but it took, unfortunately, a serious loss that she experienced in her family for me to say, you know, I love you, I'm going to come and visit you. And this is how I decided to come to America for a visit.
And you never looked back?
Well, I don't have to look back because everything back is in my memory, in my heart. This is what I live day to day. I don't look back.
Yeah.
I look back for reflection, but the whole life of the experience and so on, it's alive in me as long as I am connected with myself. Because if I want to betray myself, I can disconnect. But it would be a betrayal, disconnection from myself, from my experience.
Man, I wish I would have known you at that time. I would have loved to see your reaction when you arrived to America and that first visceral response that you get. What was that like?
I wish I recorded myself to be able to see it. You know, something very like weird that I realized when I came to America, that we've been fighting for freedom, chanting for freedom, marching for freedom, writing about freedom, saying poetry about freedom, singing for freedom. But freedom is something that we don't know. We only know it because of the opposite of it.
Yeah.
And when I came to America, I was shocked by this experience of freedom. Traveling wherever you want without wanting and needing to reach out to your ID and say, I might be stopped on a checkpoint. Being able to go on hikes without worrying that settlers are going to come and attack you. Being able to sleep in your house knowing that nobody will break into your house. The Israeli occupation will not come into your house without a warrant from a court. You have rights. And I was mesmerized by this experience of the nature, the cities, seeing humans from many different cultures, and just going wherever I wish. Thousands of miles. I traveled from California, drove a truck, funny enough, a U-Haul from California to Colorado to Vermont, and I've seen the vast of America in the first 2 months. And it felt to me like I was in a dream, or maybe if I want to say it more clearly, it's like I was watching a film or a movie, and now I just get into it, you know.
Yeah.
I was shifted from my couch into the movie, and now I'm traveling it. So funny enough that those memories, early memories, the feelings are with me, but the images, because I've seen so much, faded away, some of them.
Yeah. You had a bunch of odd jobs, I
Odd
believe.
jobs, yes.
You want to share a couple of them?
Okay.
Well, these odd jobs, to be fair, they help you find and create some wonderful relationships as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel very blessed that I ended up in Vermont and New Hampshire, area called the Upper Valley. And I was so frustrated at the beginning because my English was not good at all. I could not understand what people are saying to me, but I would shake my head, like.
That's what I do when people speak Arabic to me, so I
Yeah.
don't feel bad.
Okay, so we have the same coping mechanism. So at that time, there was frustration. My ex-wife convinced me of staying, and her way was, I think you are intelligent, you can do anything you want, and I hope for you to see that you can help Palestine more from America than in Palestine under the occupation. And she was wise. I give her the credit. And I thought of it and I said, yes, but I can't stay here without working. So what can I do? I had some programming skills. I had some, photography and videoing skills from before. I had some sales skills. But I wanted a place where I would interact with a lot of people. And I apply to a coffee shop and I get the job. And I had to learn what bagel is. What's the difference between spinach and Spanish? And what is a cream cheese and other things, and how to be a barista.
Yeah.
And that was fun. I like learning things. I like working with my hands. This is something I've always liked since I was a child, fixing things and building things and so on. But what I liked there is the interaction with Dartmouth community. And I have made amazing connections with people who are still in my life since 12 years, deep friends, intellectual people who actually showed me what humanity is.
Yeah.
Just their humanity is so vast.
You had one of your friends, did he or she give you a word of the day?
A word of the day,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, this is Don Foster, and he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
This guy, a professor, taught at Columbia Teachers College, taught at other places, went to Harvard, comes from very established family. He worked with Nelson Mandela in educational programs. He worked in the Foreign Service, establishing education systems after the apartheid system in South Africa. And I felt gravitated towards him because I wanted to learn about Nelson Mandela and learn other things. And he ended up teaching me English. So the word of the day is, he would give me some, words, and I would write them on sticky notes. And when he came to my house, the whole kitchen was filled with sticky notes.
Yeah.
This is how I started learning,
That's such an amazing story. I got to ask, there is something sort of infectious about your personality. It feels like you generate or encourage positive energy and for people to come and speak with you and build relationships with you. What is that about you that makes that happen? I don't even know if I'm even asking the question correctly. I hope you understand what I'm asking you. It's just, why would that guy, out of all people, want to help you learn more?
This requires deep reflection. I've been blessed to have many amazing people in my life, mentors, friends, and supporters. And those people, I give them the credit for helping me to get to Colombia and where I am. Not Palestinians. There were Palestinians who helped me in Palestine. There are Palestinians who are in my life now. But the experience in the Upper Valley in Vermont and New Hampshire, people have given me so much love and support. What is it? I think that level of openness that I don't know what is it, but I was eager to tell people about the Palestinian story, about my experience, and I was open to share with them. I was not hiding it. I did not have fear because, some people see me as a brown kid with an accent and maybe very little English at that time. But I tried and I wanted my people to be seen. So that's the openness. And I was not afraid of sharing with them who I am and what I've been through and so on. And what was impressive is the moment I open to people, they don't take it for granted. Many people.
Only in Vermont, not DC.
I haven't had the experience in DC.
You won't get that experience in DC.
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think cities have different vibe.
Yeah.
They're faster, people are busy, they are looking after, just keep going. There are much more diversity in cities, so maybe the stories are not as seen. So I think that is the element, is being open and inviting people to my story. And that what actually ended up like the cafe, worked there for a few months. Then I applied to a bank and I wanted to be at a bank for, this is more professional and it will get me the security check that this guy is trustworthy coming from a refugee camp. And similarly, like the manager of the bank, I go to meet with her and I open up to her and she's like, I would give you a job here. I'm like, I don't know how to really speak English well. She said, you will be fine.
Yeah.
And I learned on the spot. And then I did some consulting, started helping smaller businesses with their techs and so on, and innovation, it's just like this is the hunger of not having opportunities. When you see opportunities, you do very well. And, this is the story in America. Most of the people who achieve high success and benefit the economy here and benefit Americans are those who never had the opportunity before, and they build on it and they serve the community and they do well. This is the experience of being an immigrant.
Yeah. Lehigh University. Why did you decide to go there?
Many factors.
What factors would shock people?
I think what would shock people is considering that it had a high percentage of Jewish people. And I wanted to be able to go as a Palestinian and interact with many Jewish Americans and to tell them, this is me, this is my story, I am a human being and I am not a threat to anybody, and I wanted to share my experience and vision. The funny thing is I was taking classes at Dartmouth before that, and I was promised verbally of being admitted at Dartmouth. And something weird happened that I did not get admitted. Okay, so one of the professors at Dartmouth, who is actually an amazing professor, an Egyptian professor, Hani Farid, professor of computer science, super good, super bright. He says you shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket. You should consider others, first choice, second choice. And he said Lehigh is a good place. It's an excellent engineering school. And I was doing computer science, computer engineering before. That's my gig, and I felt very comfortable in that field. He said, consider Lehigh. It's a very good school. And I said to him, I want to be able to balance between activism and doing my schoolwork. And he said, I think that's a good one. And I do my research and I'm like, okay, it seems like a small pond or small lake that would give me some skills to build up, and then I will end up going somewhere else. And the funny thing that I applied to other Ivies, in some of which I was waitlisted for, but the only one that I did not want to be at is Columbia, because I didn't like New York City. It was very intimidating to me. So I ended up going to Lehigh.
How long were you there for?
2 years, thanks to the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned not getting into the other college. Do you know why?
Now I do.
Okay.
And there will be time to reveal why did that happen, but it's based on discrimination.
Okay. That's going to be in your book we're going to talk about later, I hope.
In the book, yes.
Right? Yeah. So you get to Columbia and you immediately your activism kicks in, really. You build relationships. You have a very unique approach to activism. I do want to mention you wrote a peace plan or a peace framework with one of your classmates.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Again, I think that's, they see you on TV and they see you at these protests, but a lot of people don't realize you were putting work in behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a great example of that.
Mm-hmm. There are different pieces to uncover here. The first one, and many Palestinians want to either shy away from this or to not discuss it. What is the role of the Israelis in the liberation of the Palestinians? This is a big question.
Yeah.
What is the role of the Jewish American community in the liberation of Palestinians? And my take on this, it's very important. We have to work on all fronts and to connect with all people to be able to amplify our voices and our needs and bring liberation. And I took a different approach because my approach was, I'm not going to be intimidated by Israelis, and I'm going to share with them my truth with clarity. The clarity that we know, the thawabit, the right of return, that is...
Can you unpack that a little bit more?
Yes, the thawabit is the Palestinian fundamental principles. That is something that you can't compromise on. And if you do, you cannot represent the Palestinians. So if any party, Hamas or Fatah, basically compromise on that, they're no longer representing Palestinian people. And those thawabit are the basic rights for Palestinians. The first one, and the most important one, is the right of return. And the right of return is an individual right. There is no entity that can give it up. Individuals must have the right to return to their land, to Palestine. And when we say Palestine, in our understanding, Palestine is historic Palestine, river to the sea. They have the right to go to their towns. And they have the right to receive compensation. And they have the right to receive citizenships and compensations other places. This is the right of return if you unpack it. It's the most fundamental one. And this is the one that Israel and Israelis are scared of. And they say, if we allow the Palestinians to return, then there will not be Israel. And it's coming from a place of fear. And I say there would not be Israel because Israel is itself based on supremacy, giving people different rights and denying Palestinian refugees who are still living in refugee camps. How cruel that has to be. Now, with the genocide, more than 2.5 million Palestinians who live in very difficult, miserable situations. And on the other hand, what does Israel do? They give the birthright to any person claimed to be Jewish, even if they have 1, 2, 3 homes, 1, 2, 3 citizens or more. They have the right to a land that belongs to a people who are in refugee camps and in very miserable situations, suffering. And that's in the West Bank, 18 refugee camps. In Gaza, 8 refugee camps. In Lebanon, I think 7 refugee camps. In Syria, I don't know the numbers. And in Jordan. So that is the most fundamental right and cannot be compromised on, period. Then the other thawabits is the right to resist in all different forms. You can't tell somebody that you don't have the right to resist.
Are you nervous sharing this, given
I'm not.
Given the situation?
No.
Okay.
This is related to the plan or any vision. This is fundamental, and many people don't understand it. You can go and speak with Israelis, but you can't compromise on those. And if you want to amplify the Palestinian voices, you would ask the Palestinians what they want. And this is, I'm sharing with you and with everybody, Those are fundamental rights. You can't compromise on them. The right of return is the most significant one. The right to resist, enshrined by international law. Jerusalem, it has its own significance for Palestinians. And there is division whether if it's East Jerusalem or Jerusalem as a whole. For me, Jerusalem should not be divided, and it should be actually an international city. Palestinian international city that's available for all different people.
The way it was before, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's been this way for like thousands of years, and people might argue with me on that, but yes, the way it was before, all different religions,
right? And
even people without religions, they have the right to go and see it and be there and practice whatever they would want. And the fourth right is the self-determination. And the self-determination means that the Palestinian people as collective, they have the right to decide which direction and which form and which entity that has to take place. And for the self-determination, it must be based on democratic practices and principles. And that means self-determination means that some Palestinians might want to have a state and like based on two states, and some Palestinians might want to have one state. I don't think the end goal of this, one state or two states, would be resolved without resolving the issue of the right of return before anything else. So this is historical. And now I would add to those thawabits is also reparation and compensation and apology and recognition. So for those who have lost their family members and who have been suffering for many years. This is restorative justice. I'm not going to cause harm to other people based on me asking for justice for myself. And to be able to do that, you have to be comprehensive, to see the pain and the suffering of the people and to offer a path moving forward for justice. My plan is based on this understanding. And the understanding also that there is a deep level of trauma and mistrust between the Israelis or Jewish Israelis and Palestinians. And in order to address that, you have to have also a comprehensive plan about how do you resolve it. My understanding is that Israelis, and if you look at the polls, you will see that there is a majority who are supporting the state, more than 80%, and who have a genocidal mentality. This is very serious. But I see them because I practice Buddhism and I empathize. I don't justify. There's a big difference between empathy and justification. I see them as hostages, actually, captured by their own system that capitalize on their pain and fear and mistrust, and that makes them see Palestinians as less of humans, and that use them as tools to oppress Palestinians. So my vision that the Israelis have to be liberated from their own system. But when we look at liberation, there is a high priority liberation for the Palestinians themselves, because Israel is imposing all of this pain and suffering on them. And then there is also a priority to educate the Israelis and to liberate them from their own system that's blinding them and turning them into monsters. And there are many Israelis who are waking up. The ones who I connect with and work with, they see the injustice, and they acknowledge the rights, the principled rights, the thawabit of the Palestinian people. If they don't, I don't share a stage with them, one, and that's very important, because I'm not going to normalize the situation. And second, I don't cut ties. You want to speak with me? Come and speak with me. I'll speak with you in private, and I'll try to convince you. And three, if you want to invite me to speak with a community, I'm happy to do that, but I will not do it in a way that is equivalent or normalizing somebody saying, I am a Zionist. And I believe that Zionism is the way, unless we do it in a form of a debate. Complex, right?
No, not complex. Complex yet simple, because your thesis really, to an extent, is if you free Palestine, you're also freeing the Israelis.
100%.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody frame it that way.
I think the challenge is we see it and we believe, and I believe, it's a settler colonial project, which is a reality. And the story and the other stories from settler colonial projects, they have to be defeated, crushed, and then get out of there. That is not very accurate in this situation. It is a settler colonial project, but also it's a project that is based on deep level of fear and the trauma that the Jewish people have experienced. And the blindness of trauma made them impose it and cause it to the Palestinians. And the whole existence is on the cost of the Palestinian suffering. Now, if people want to actually understand what liberation would look like, we have to look at South Africa. That's the closest to a certain level. And in South Africa, there was the apartheid regime system, gave the white Afrikaners more rights than the black South Africans. And what was the transformation? The transformation is when the white Afrikaners started understanding that this system is using them against the black Africans, South Africans. And they started marching with the South Africans and calling for boycott. And the system, when it was dismantled, they started living to a certain level in equality. If people want to understand more, I would encourage them to read the book of Zohran Mamdani's father, Professor Mahmoud Mamdani, Neither Settler Nor Native.
Okay.
And it will give a good understanding of that.
So your peace framework, just to sort of wrap that part up, was built around everything you just shared.
Yeah, those are the fundamental principles. If you want the plan, we need to book another 3 hours to start sharing
let's
it.
do it.
You.
I want to hear that peace plan. So I want to reiterate, I don't want this interview to just be about your detention or being arrested again. I have so much respect for you. I know there's so much more there.
Thank you.
But the fact that you planned and you knew that you were going to get arrested on the day of your interview for your citizenship, you interviewed ahead of time, I think, was it CBS?
Mm-hmm.
And, you told them, hey, this is probably going to happen. Be ready. You contacted your senators or your Congress people. How did you know to do that?
Gratitude to the Israeli fucking occupation. Motherfuckers, my sense of caution and security is super high. And I've seen, again, the worst of what they have done and the tricks and the things. So in the back of my mind, I know what the systems are capable of doing. And I did my research before the citizenship interview, even before Mahmoud Khalil was detained. I did my research. I was the first, actually, to be targeted on a mass, large scale by the Zionist groups. Canary Mission and Betar and others, and even, Israel Now and Jewish Breaking News. They put my picture in January after Trump became a president, and they said, this is the guy that you want to go after. This is the guy who's, spearheading Colombia's protest. So I knew that this is like, things might get complicated. And what I did is I studied and I consulted with a number of lawyers. Get just thoughts. Can they do that? Well, they can come with certain things. What are these things? 1, 2, 3. Okay, do I qualify? They might be able to do that, but I have to plan ahead. So before the detention of anybody, I already told everyone, be careful. And these are the steps that you need to do. don't hang out in public, prepare your emergency sheet, put all of the contact, ensure that you have a lawyer, camouflage to a certain level because we don't know, there is uncertainty there, and don't have routines. They started laughing at me, some of the organizers. They're
not laughing anymore.
Well, yeah, they started laughing at me, and then Mahmoud was picked up. The moment Mahmoud was picked up, I already had kind of drafts if I get picked up to basically have the orders for the attorney. And I learned from what happened with Mahmoud, because I did not imagine that they would be sending them to a different circuit, to Louisiana, because there is more favorable judges there to the Trump's administration, immigration judges. So anyways, when Mahmoud was picked up, I said, this is what I've been telling you guys. And I told Mahmoud, by the way, like a number of times, buddy, and he's like, we're green card holders. I'm not sure if he wants this to be there. So anyways, when I saw that, I met with the attorneys who I already spoke with, and they were prepared. And I said, okay, now we have to plan accordingly. What do we need? Well, this is what was done. This is the issue. So I planned with the attorneys step by step, having all of the drafts like ready just to sign and to send, to submit to the court. And then I ensured that my story, that's before I received my citizenship interview. The thing is, I sheltered in place for 21 days. Nobody knew where I was. Very few people. I told people I'm not in the city. I left, I sent some emails to Colombia saying I'm not in my apartment. I'm somewhere else. I want you to secure some place for me. So when I was sheltering in place, I received an email. You're up to your citizenship interview. I like, motherfuckers. Yes, I am. I was like, oh, I've been waiting for this. But I'm like, it seems like it might be a trap. And funny enough, when I meet with the lawyers, they say to me, well, it seems like it's an actual real, citizenship interview. The right hand doesn't know the left hand. I said, good. I am a very optimistic guy, but I plan for worst case scenario.
Yeah.
What do we need to do? So I ensured that I have a lawyer in every state that I will be passing by to be able to file on call. I ensured I have a lawyer in Vermont during the day of the citizenship interview who is free during that time. I wanted the American people to see this like hypocrisy and serious violation setting a trap for me during my citizenship interview. I wanted the American people to see the hypocrisy, and I wanted the people to know this is not just the activist. This is a person who knows what he's talking about. I come from the heart of suffering, from a refugee camp. And I did those embargoed interviews because it's important. And I also told the senators that this is what's happening. I coordinate, I record my story, and I communicate with the senators, and I ended up succeeding to not be transported to Louisiana. And that case set a precedent because I was the last to be detained, the first to be freed after 16 days, and after me, everybody else was freed.
You came out of that interview smiling with the peace sign. Like you didn't care. Like, bring it. Do you recognize how powerful that is?
I did not at that time, until my legal team and my community were so scared, saying that you have basically poked the bear. And I said, I'm saying my truth. And I saw that the media internationally, everybody was shocked that this is the first guy who got freed, and he's telling the Trump's administration, basically, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. No, not basically. You're pretty much telling them.
I said, I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah.
Just
They tried to accuse you of bringing drugs to the border. They accused you of some gun shop owner said that you built guns and you use them. Where do they come up with this crap?
I mean, Ed, you have to think also, what did they accuse Nicole Good
Yeah.
and Alex Britti? Domestic terrorism. I mean, Trump is known as a con artist.
Yeah.
And his administration is following the same kind of equation, trying to incite fear, to distract people, and to create confusions. And many media has missed that.
Yeah.
The reality is that the Trump's administration, the establishment, the Zionist establishment, are scared to shit from not the protest, from what the protests are calling for.
Yeah.
What are they calling for?
Freedom.
Freedom. And how do we bring it? Through divestment, boycott, and sanctions. And we do that out of love for humanity, because we believe in human rights. And we believe that entities and systems that are furthering the genocide of the Palestinian people and the apartheid must be boycotted, sanctioned, and divested from. And the systems that support freedom and justice and human rights must be invested in, empowered, and creating solidarity with them. And this is what the American media has succeeded, in fact. Everybody fell in this trap. They started saying the Palestine movement or the pro-Palestine protest. That's a distraction. It's not a protest. It's a movement for divestment, boycott, and sanctions. And the reason that they came after students, because we wanted the institutions, the multi-billion dollars institutions, that's the endowment. I mean, Colombia has an endowment about $16 billion. Countries don't have that money. And you look at Harvard, even more, and many others, and there is serious amount of money and programs that are invested in Israel.
Yeah.
So it's not just a protest. We had real demands. And one more thing about the gun shop. I went to register, or I went to ask if I need to register a shotgun that I received as a gift for skeet shooting. You're in Vermont, you're surrounded with nature. That's what people do there. And the guy, the gun shop owner, was a racist guy. And he fabricated some lies. And the government knows about it because there was an investigation. And even it's in my declaration for the court when they tried to later bring it up. I said, call that, this is the FBI guy. This is what he told me. He told me it was concluded and you have a great path ahead of you and so on. So the judge called the FBI guy to the court. And the government said, no, we can't bring him to the stand. It's a national security issue. He said, that means this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Let him out.
You tell me if you can't answer this question. Okay. What's your message to Rubio? If he were here right now, sitting in this seat, what would you say to him?
You're representing the American people, not the Israeli people. And you should be doing your job. This is one message. The other one, I would say, you are destroying the most sacred text, basically, in this country, which is the Constitution, in service of an apartheid, genocidal government. And the third one, I would say that if you don't see Palestinians equal of value and rights as Israelis, then you are being supremacist. We know what happened before with systems of supremacy, and we know what's gonna happen to this system of supremacy.
Did I ask you what you would say to Trump? Should we leave that one alone?
Yeah, I think that I'd say The American people don't want wars. The American people don't want their money to go to Israel or to other countries. And the American people are seeing that what Israel has done and is doing has nothing to do with Judaism. I know that you're scared, that Trump is scared of the Zionist lobby, the pro-Israel lobby. But if you want the people, you have to act with courage, and with courage to, which I doubt that he has that courage, with courage to not support Israel. He always talks, I freed the hostages. Why are you seeing and giving more value to Israeli hostages than Palestinian hostages? We have thousands of Palestinians, including 2 of my cousins, who were killed by the Israeli occupation just after October 7th, and their bodies were taken by the Israeli army and kept there. Why are you returning and pushing for the return of bodies of hostages who are Israelis just because they are Jews, and you are not seeing Palestinians of an equivalent value? My aunt and my uncle and their siblings are still waiting for the moment that they can honor their bodies and bury them. And I want him to see us as human beings. And I would say, I'm still not afraid of you.
When's your book coming out?
It's in process.
Okay.
And it's tough because I am focused on the future, not on the past.
Yeah.
The past is teaching me for the future. And like organizing and building and speaking with communities, I'm making it a higher priority. So it's a slow progress.
You're going to come back, though, and we're going to talk about the book when it
It would be my honor.
Just 2 more things really quick.
Yeah.
First things first. Do you realize how proud your uncle would be of you today? Do you realize you fulfilled his wish to see you doing what you're doing today, using the power of education, the power of your pen, the power of your voice?
There are many moments where I think of my uncle and I get goosebumps in my body. And I say, your memory really is what's keeping me going, and of my friend Hamida Mubarak, because those are from childhood, very deep, traumatic, painful, but powerful moments. And yes, they would be proud, but I think they will not be fully at rest until liberation and ending all of this misery take place. That is how I bring peace to their spirits.
Job's not finished. If you like, you can look at that camera. And I often ask the guests to give a message, whether it's to the community, to the world in general. But I think maybe it would be good for you to give a message to the Palestinians in Palestine right now, because you're here, you're fighting for them, you're putting everything on the line for the Palestinian people, for our brothers and sisters there. What message do you want to give them?
بدي أحكي في العربي. وجعكم وجعي، وجع الإنسانية، والنصر والحرية على الطريق، أقرب من ما بتتوقعوا. مهم هذا البرنامج اسمه صمود، لأنه مستوحى منكم، من صمودكم. الصمود والصبر والوحدة أهم إشي بالنسبة لنا كفلسطينيين، لأن النصر قادم بإذن الله. راح أحكي لكم: يا دامي العينين والكفين إن الليل زائل، لا غرفة التحقيق باقية ولا زرد السلاسل. مات نيرون ولم تمت روما، وبذور سنبلة تموت ستملأ الوادي سنابل. والقضية الفلسطينية لم تمت ولن تموت، لأنها قضية حق وعدالة، والنصر لنا بإذنه تعالى.
Something's just more powerful in Arabic.
It is the language of the soul.
It is. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you coming here and speaking with me today. I know you have a lot going on. You are welcome anytime.
I appreciate
Anytime you want to come and chat. I don't even have to be here. If you just want to look at the camera and talk to the audience,
I appreciate
you're
you.
free to do that.
And I'm so grateful.
Listen, stay tuned, cause it's time for Sumud.